Good day to all of you. I am your science teacher, Teacher Liza Durante, and welcome to our science class. Are you ready to learn another science lesson? For this week's lesson, we are going to discuss the interaction in the estuary and intertidal zone. But before that, I want you to prepare yourself and your stuff needed for our study. Find a nice and comfortable place inside your home wherein you can focus to our lesson. Are you ready now? Great! So let us begin. Interaction in estuary and intertidal zone. For this week's lesson, we are going to answer the following questions. For the first question, what is an estuary and intertidal zone? For the second question, what are the different habitats and factors that can be found in estuaries and intertidal zone? And then, we are going to describe the different interactions that take place in estuaries and intertidal zone. But before that, let us study the different illustrations below. The first picture, as you can see, is an example of an estuary. While the second picture is an example of an intertidal zone. But what are the difference between the two places? Can you tell them? So this time, let us find out what is an estuary and intertidal zone. Estuary. It is nursery of the seas. It is the body of brackish water near the coast where fresh water from the rivers and streams flows into the ocean and mixes with salt water. It may be a bay, lagoon, or harbor. That is an estuary. This time, let us have the intertidal zone. It is an area where land meets the sea between high and low tide zone. It is composed of all plants, animals, and microorganisms living in it. This includes coral reefs teeming with many corals with different kinds of fish. Let us now find out what are the different factors and habitats that can be found in estuaries and intertidal zone. The two factors are the biotic factors or the living things and the abiotic factors or the non-living things. Biotic factors, these are the living organisms that can affect an ecosystem. These may include corals, mangrove forest, birds, crabs, and many others. These sets can be producers or the organisms that manufacture their own foods, consumers or the organisms that can get energy by feeding on plants and other organisms, or they can be decomposers or the organisms that feed on dead animals and wastes. Abiotic factors. These are the non-living organisms that can affect an ecosystem. This may include waves, temperature, salinity, amount of sunlight, and type of soil. Let us now have the different habitats found in an intertidal zone and estuary. For the first one, we have the coral reefs. These are the areas which are teeming with many corals. Coral formation are seen in these are due to large number of corals living here. This serves as a sanctuary for young fishes. The animals living in it are corals, different kind of fish, sea anemones, and sea stars. The second one is the mud flats. It is also known as tidal flats. These are the areas in estuaries where mud from the seas or river is deposited. They usually the areas for migratory birds, crabs, sand dollars, mussels, clams, mollusks, shellfish, and some fish. Algae like sea lettuce and sea spaghetti provide foods for the herbivores in this area. Another habitat that can be found in an intertidal zone and estuary is the salt marsh. These are the areas in the estuary that are filled with seawater during high tides and are drained during low tides. They are marshy because they are filled with decomposing plant matters. Organisms found here are clams, mussels, oyster, crabs, small snails, and shrimps. Plants found here are sea grasses and other plants that are tolerant of salt water known as halophytes. The next one is the rocky shore. These are the areas in the estuaries where solid rocks are found. Animals found in this place are the planktons, brittle stars, starfish, hermit crabs, barnacles, limpets, mollusks, periwinkle, shore crabs, shrimps, and prawns. Since many organisms in rocky shores are herbivores, seaweeds provide foods for them. Large predators in this area are the fish and the migratory birds. The next habitat in estuary and intertidal zone are the mangrove forests. These are the areas in estuaries that are filled with mangroves. These trees are adapted to salt water. They protect the coast against erosion caused by waves, winds, and tides. They also protect coral reefs and seagrass beds from silting or deposition of sand. Mangrove forests are also breeding grounds for different kinds of fish and shellfish. Animals found here includes the algae, barnacles, oyster, shrimps, lobster, and crabs. This time, let us describe the different interactions that take place in estuaries and intertidal zones. The two feeding relationships found in an intertidal zone and estuary are the food chain and the food web. When we say food chain, as you can see in the illustrations, is a series of organisms in which an organism feeds on another and so on. It is always begin with a producer, which is the plant. And then we have the food web. It is an interlinked food chain. It is consist of two or more food chains. Now that you already know our lesson about the interaction in the estuary and intertidal zone, I am now going to leave you with the following. Number 1, what is an estuary and intertidal zone? Number 2, give the two factors that affects the intertidal zone and estuary. Number 3, give at least 5 examples of biotic and abiotic factors. Number 4, name the different habitats that can be found in an intertidal zone and estuary. And for the last one, draw an example of food chain and food web. I hope you learned a lot from our lessons today. See you again next time. Bye and have a good day.